Recycling, a term that almost all Australians are taught to be aware of from the early years of their education. Yet, per capita, Australians produce more waste than any other nationality worldwide, and much of this waste ends up in landfill. Recycling centres around Australia, like Cleanaway, are doing their part to assist in reducing the amount of Australian waste going to landfill. In 2008, Australia became the top paper recycling country in the world, recycling 87% of waste produced, conserving 4 cubic metres of landfill per tonne, or 13 trees. However, in order to effectively reduce our waste, recyclable items still need to be thoroughly sorted and compressed into bales with low contamination rates at one of our recycling facilities. Over 850 trucks in Australia collect this waste and deliver it to one of these local centres. This process starts with recycling trucks arriving at the recycling centre. At this point, the trucks are weighed and offload their contents inside the warehouse, where they are then re-weighed to establish how much human excess has been left to sort. After this, there are forklifts that remove the recyclable content onto a conveyor belt, which takes it up into the building. All the waste is then run through a machine called the hopper, which separates glass, metals, and plastics. These piles are then sent onto a conveyor belt to sorters. These are people inside of the warehouse who sort the contents of the conveyor belt into recyclables and non-recyclables. Any content that passes the sorters is then fed into more specialised machinery to get sorted into less contaminated piles of each material type. The sorters work entirely by hand for up to 9 hours in a day, sorting everything from what you'd expect, like aluminium cans and old milk bottles, through to much less appropriate and less expected items, like nappies, food items, and sometimes even small animal carcasses. Another uses fast, spinning spikes that almost resemble an echidna, which pick out all the paper from the solid materials. This machine removes the soft plastics from the hard plastics. A second round of sorting by hand happens after the materials have been passed through the machinery to proof check for contaminants. Once this final check is complete, the materials are sent to a baler, which compresses them into large cubes, ready to be sent back to manufacturers for reuse. Some of these bales can weigh up to a tonne. If any of the contents contain too much contamination, they cannot be used for recycling, so therefore they are added to landfill. For higher purity, the higher value each bale has for sale.
Clint, I work for Cleanaway. I'm an operations manager here. I've been working in this industry for around 20 years. So my favourite machine would be the baler. So it bales up all the cardboard and paper. It comes out nice big blocks, cardboard blocks. So the job descriptions are sorters, cleaner, machine operators. We're going to have a leading hand. So the sorters are doing from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. 10 to 12 hours a day, just depending on how much product's in there.
I'm Rowena Zwart. I work at the University of Tasmania in the facilities management area, largely working on energy efficiency projects and doing audits of buildings, but I also try and help with some of the waste and recycling projects with the students and the sustainability team. I personally believe the biggest problem in recycling today would be the large amounts of types of materials, if that makes sense. There's just so many different types of products and materials out there. All of them are being manufactured for a branding purpose or that marketing edge, but it doesn't necessarily mean that things can be easily recycled. So I think that's leading to a large amount of waste in landfill.
My name's Danielle. I'm Waste Education Officer with Glenorchy City Council. I've been there for 10 years. I've been with Waste Services for 5. So the materials recovery facility has a lot to do with my job because that's where the product ends up from the curbside recycling bins. So my job as Education Officer is to try and get the community to put the right things into that bin so it ends up here and able to be sorted out into the categories that it needs to be sorted out into. It's really exciting for me to be able to come to a facility like this and see what happens, so that my job has a lot more meaning for when I go and talk to people about what happens.
So at the university, primarily at the moment, we're trying to make sure that we've got enough infrastructure in place so that people can do the right thing with the waste they're making on campus. There's still a lot of opportunities that we're not meeting just yet, but we are aware of them. So at the moment we're trying to separate compost, your normal commingled recyclables, cardboard, paper. There are specific dedicated e-waste collection programs, but we're well aware there's a huge amount of soft plastics that come wrapped around everything. We haven't got a system in place yet for that. Oh, good question. How much of Tassie's waste is recyclable? To be honest, I think a lot more than what we would initially think, because we have a lot of different types of materials that we just can't process here. So say for example, like your construction demolition waste, different types of plastics, even just some of our electronics, even batteries. So I think, yes, it's a much higher amount than what you would initially perhaps be thinking. I guess now we're a little bit more fortunate that people are really aware of climate and reducing our emissions and wanting to do the right thing in landfill and all the rest of it.